us, it became more of like an environment of survival. Understanding that it was important to bring somewhat of a light to this neighborhood was important, and not just, do the traditional thing was to come into a neighborhood and just continue to take from the community.
Hello and welcome to Pizza Quest. I'm Peter Reinhardt, and we are here today with the authors of a new book. In fact, the book I'm coming to you right now at the end of January, the day after the Eagles beat Washington. I'm still a little bit buzzing from that great game yesterday, with two guys from Philly, some fellow Philadelphians who are the owners of Down North Pizza and the author of a new book called We the Pizza, Slangin' Pies and Saving Lives. And let me tell you a little bit about this before we get going. It's created and launched by Philly born and bred entrepreneur Mohammed Abdul-Hadi. The mission of Down North Pizza is to reduce recidivism rates in North Philly and serve up the most insanely delicious food while doing it. We the Pizza tells the Down North story about how the restaurant fulfills its mission to educate and support the formerly incarcerated while serving dope food. And I'm reading this, by the way, from the Amazon kind of blurb. So this is how it's being presented. If you go to Amazon, you'll see this. A testament to survival and second chances, this cookbook offers recipes for the tender, crispy edge, square cut, sauce on top pies that are Down North's signature dish. A whole chapter is devoted to vegetarian and vegan dishes like No Better Love. A lot of we'll talk about the titles of these pizzas, the names of these pizzas when we get going here. But No Better Love is made with 4 cheeses and the arrabbiata-inspired North sauce. While the meat and seafood pizza chapter features their most popular Rock the Mike pepperoni pie, as well as smoky Burberry brisket, and it's called The Tales of a Hustler, and Say Yes, topped with jerk turkey sausage, roasted butternut squash, kale, ricotta, lemon honey, and drizzle. Just to give you a little preview of some of the things we're going to talk about. The 65 recipes for pizzas, along with classic and creative wings, fries, lemonades, and shakes, are paired with cinematic photography of the pizzas in their natural setting and out in the wilds of Philadelphia, with lots of journalistic style photography of the Down North crew making dough and slinging pies. At the same time, We the Pizza provides detailed historical information about incarceration in the United States, along with empowering stories from Down North's formerly incarcerated staff. And with exclusive pizza recipes from renowned chef supporters like Mark Vetri and Marcus Samuelson and other James Beard Award-winning chefs, We the Pizza celebrates ingeniously delicious pizza, as well as the power people have to rise above their circumstances if simply given the chance. Mohammed Abdul-Hadi, Mike Carter, great to have you here. Welcome to Pizza Quest.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Sure. My name
is start off by saying, even though we both from Philly, we're not all Eagles fans over here, so we got to be mindful of that.
You're not Eagles fans?
I am. I ain't speaking for everybody on this call, though.
We'll bear that in mind. Football's a touchy subject. I can say I'm down in North Carolina, grew up in Philly, and rarely have a chance to root for a Philadelphia team until recently. So between the Phillies and the Eagles, I finally had something to root for. When I was a kid, we had season tickets to the Eagles when they played at Franklin Field way back in the 60s. And they stunk up the joint back then. But it's great to see them. From my standpoint, it's great to see them back. And we'll probably have a Philly gathering here in Charlotte for other folks who have diehard fans who have long suffering and waiting for a chance to root. But who knows? They're going up against the new GOAT of football. So who knows how the Super Bowl will go. By the time this show airs, though, guys, the game will be over. We don't know how it's going to end, so we can't predict that and talk about it. But what will happen by the time this show airs will be that the book will be out, We the People, or We the Pizza. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about you guys. If you could, one of you, Mohammed, maybe you really created this business and a lot of other very interesting projects in Philly. Can you talk a little bit about how it all came to be?
Yeah, this came to be because honestly, it was a point in my life where I always thought about opening up a restaurant and kind of didn't know what that wanted at the time, what that was going to be. I just had this building in North Philly and I was like, you know what, why not just make a pizzeria? Didn't have any culinary experience, I knew nothing about restaurants. It was just like, just do it. And, I literally just built out the space and just was thinking about everything else after that. So understanding the area that we in, in Strawberry Mansion, anybody that's from Philly, Strawberry Mansion is, underserved, underdeveloped. Anything that you can think of that a neighborhood is suffering, that happened in Strawberry Mansion. So understanding that it was important to bring somewhat of a light to this neighborhood was important, and not just, do the traditional thing was to come into a neighborhood and just continue to take from the community. Why not use something that, made sense for the community? And recidivism rates in Strawberry Mansion are very, very high. So it just made the most sense for me at the time, just thinking about it and understanding that, what this could be, and also just changing the perception of people who think of individuals who've been formerly incarcerated was one of the big takeaways I wanted people to take away from this business as well.
So basically, part of the business model is that your employees are folks who have been formerly incarcerated. So in a sense, it's kind of a second chance program.
Yeah, it's a restaurant. I like to stay away from the idea of words in this like program, because this is not a
Yeah.
program. This,
Right.
and
Exactly.
it's not, you don't have to be here. This is like any other job. It's just, for us, it became more of like an environment of survival, and, with everybody, and, we became each other's like, crutch in so many different ways. So it's a job, but it's not a program. And this is like, any other normal job. It's just, we had built this family dynamic within this restaurant, and that's what people get to see when they come and experience, what we had going on.
So the talent that you've kind of gathered around to make it happen, including Mike Carter here, who's been from the beginning, I think is kind of like would you say your culinary director, or your head pizzaiolo, or Mike, what's your role?
Executive chef, but I guess you could say culinary director all in one.
Again, titles in words can screw things up, but essentially executive chef, and a lot of the recipes in the book, it sounds like, kind of happened under your watch and under your creation.
Yeah, most definitely.
Now we want to talk, we'll get to some of the recipes in a bit, because I'm really curious about some of the, the things that the way you're using spices and the sauces you've come up with and everything else. But the team itself, when did you open, by the way? It's about 2021. Was that when the doors opened?
No, we opened, so we started making pizzas and opening up the doors for customers in 2020, like the tail end of the pandemic. Like,
Oh, okay, yeah.
but so many
Excited to open.
on restaurants that, it would just pick up service. You can come pick up your pie, and then, that was it. It wasn't, you couldn't hang out in the store.
Yeah.
The grand opening, when a lot of the restrictions were lifted, was March of 2021.
And so then you actually had a brick and mortar restaurant. People could dine.
We had the brick and mortar. It just that, it was, you couldn't be around. You had to wear a mask. So they would come into the shop, get pizza.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. But now people can hang out there and eat there, right?
Yeah. Now it became like a hub, or like a, destination spot. Now, people got us on the list when they visit Philly as one of the places they need to visit.
Well, for those people who are not from Philly, like, like some of us who are familiar with it, Strawberry Hill is kind of like would you say, the edge of North Philadelphia? It's on the north side of Philadelphia. And of course the restaurant's called Down North. So is that the whole, connection there to the north side of Philly?
Yeah. So Strawberry Mansion is, when you look at a map of Philly, it's literally center of Philadelphia. So in all actuality, it's a great location because it sits in the center of Philadelphia. And Down North is a vernacular statement that, we use and referring to when we're traveling to North Philadelphia. Anybody from Philly would, if you're going to North Philly, you always say, I'm going down north, which to people that's not from Philly, it makes no sense, but it makes perfect sense. That's honestly one of the identifying markers, that when somebody say they're from Philly and they don't understand that, it's like, are you really from Philly?
If they don't know what that means, then they could be just hopping on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at right now at the table of contents, which lists a lot of the pizzas, some of the concepts of you've come up with. I know the pizzas are essentially square pies, kind of like in the Detroit style. Would you say, is that the style of pizza that you specialize in, or are you doing round pizzas as well?
No, it's
The square pies. All our pizzas are square.
Well, they look pretty cool. I mean, the photos, by the way, in the book are spectacular. When I first saw the book, I got to see it before it came out, and I was impressed with, number one, how it captured the energy of what you're doing there. That, there's a lot of pizza books out. A lot of them are beautiful. A lot of them have good photos, but there's something yours has its own distinct characteristic. It's got, I would just say it's got energy. The photos are dynamic, and then the concepts are exciting. I'm just going to read some of the ones here. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about them. I know that you've got a whole section on the various sauces that you use, whether the Norfollow sauce, the North sauce, the not vodka sauce, pardon me, your spicy cream sauce, your spicy cheese sauce, I'm sorry. But then some of the pizzas, you've got a whole category of vegan pizzas or vegetable forward pizzas with names. And here's what I want to ask you really is the names of these pizzas. The names themselves don't tell you what the pizza is about, but there's a story behind the names. So some of these pizzas are called No Better Love, Uptown Vibes, Summertime, 215, Sarah's Smile, Streets of Philadelphia, Rock the Mic. That's, I guess, your pepperoni number one. Anyway, what's the story about how you named your pizzas and what inspires them?
Pretty much, No Better Love. It's the number one song on Billboard by the Young Guns, but at the same time, it's the perfect way to describe a cheese pizza. Who doesn't like cheese pizza? So No Better Love was definitely like when we decided to start naming the pizzas, we said that had to be for the cheese pizza. And Rock the Mic, that's our number one selling pie. And it's literally probably the number one selling song. I mean, number one played song whenever you think of Philadelphia and modern day hip hop age, as well as like the other titles, they're all songs by Philadelphia artists.
Well, that's what I was getting at. So most of these are,
Philadelphia artists.
so it's the Philadelphia music scene that kind of drives a lot of these.
Yeah, for sure. We grew up in the hip hop generation. But then you got us mentioning songs like Sarah Smiles, Streets of Philadelphia. These are all songs that highlight Philadelphia. And we just wanted to, I guess, connect the pizza to the city as much as possible as we could.
And you have the music playing in the restaurant as while people are dining.
We do have a track list. What's that on Apple Music, Mom?
Yeah, it's in the book. It's on thanks to Spotify. So yeah, so you can actually, while you in the house, preparing the dough and doing that, you can also listen to the track list and get familiar. But yeah, to come to the shop, you get that feeling of like, everything that the brand embodies as well as like the book. And you touched on like the fact that the book is like unique in so many different ways. And I think it was very intentional because the brand is unique. When I was thinking about like, all right, well, we got this book, it was like, we're not traditional in any sense with anything that we do. So therefore, we could not come out with just a traditional cookbook with shots, beautiful shots. We in North Philly, we had to show like what our brand embodies. And that's why it's like our pizzas are in the community, right? It's different shots. You guys show pictures of, dirt bites. It's the culture where a person picking up that book can really get the feel of what Philly is about, what North Philly and what like the brand is about. So that was very intentional to make sure it drove it home and not just like, oh, well, a lot, it's a lot of the stuff is just it's not pretty, right? In this part of the town. So it's like you get a feel of like the environment and, the things that do need to change within the community. So it was very intentional to kind of drive that home for readers that are not familiar with Philadelphia to kind of get that.
Well, Muhammad, I wanted to ask you, this is not your first project or your first, the first, I don't know what's the right word for it, but a program that you've started. You've done a number of things leading up to the restaurant. One was, if I'm not mistaken, you've done literacy programs, you've done neighborhood garden programs, all sorts of things to help raise the quality of life in the area where you live. Are you still doing those? Are those things still happening? Or has the pizza kind of taken over most of your attention now?
No, that stuff will always have to happen because the thing about the brand is just not about, making pizza. It's about that other part that, honestly is the most fulfilling part is the things that we do outside of the pizza shop. And yeah, we do a lot of work and Mike can speak to a lot, the work he does inside the juvenile prison,
Okay.
and working with the youth and teaching them various skills. Because that's the thing, when we look at, rebuilding, it's like, a lot of it is cornered in like economics and then building skills. So it's like we trying to get people on board with like learning things so that, as they learn and become better at things, they can ultimately get themselves out of certain situations. So for us, that part is, very, very important for us to continue on to do as we go, because we know that's necessary, like what we do. And, a lot of attention that we can be able to bring to the brand is, we can able to divert it, out and, use that to, further our mission of what we're trying to do. And that's reduce recidivism and, at the preschool to prison pipeline.
Mike, can you talk a little bit about that, the work you do in the prisons and how do you reach the folks there with your story and to help them see, opportunity?
As a former ward, the Youth Study Center, it was definitely a sobering moment to actually be able to come inside of the center and teach a class on culinary arts. So we have we have a horticulture program and a culinary arts program. One meets on Tuesday, one meets on Friday, where we basically have a farm to table situation where we teach the kids how to garden and cook the food. And actually it's beyond cooking the food. It's about producing, because we fermented some hot sauces. We made tomato sauce with them, show them how to can the tomato sauce. And every class inside of the culinary program is an international flair class. So we may have 6 classes per unit. I mean, every unit is 6 classes, and we started off with American fare. So it may be burgers where we'll bake the buns, we'll grind the meat down, and then like tomorrow is our conclusion of one unit. We're having an Indian class. So we're doing corn pakoras, butter chicken, chicken biryani, all these things that the kids get to do, but also we're implementing ingredients that they help grow in the garden. So it's a farm to table situation that gives the kids basically a look into the culinary industry.
Wow. So you're really giving them life skills that can translate to when they get out looking for work. Have any, after they've done their time, have they come and have been able to hire any of them to work for you?
That's ultimately the plan. These are juveniles, so they're not, I guess state law doesn't permit them to be around certain equipment until they get a certain age. But we also have a farmer's market inside of the Youth Study Center where we actually let them sell all the produce, collect the money, and it's sort of like empowering for them to understand how attainable it is to be an entrepreneur themselves.
That's amazing. Do any of your other down north employees participate in some of these programs?
We've had other guys, they come into the center where we do planting and at the horticulture center in the healing garden. But for the most part, I haven't had any of my guys come into my class, but I have had a few guest chefs. As recently, my friend Nana Wilmot, she came in and we had a Ghanaian cooking class, and she told us how to make goat jollof rice, amongst other things.
That's pretty cool. Does the restaurant itself have its own garden? Do you have like a neighborhood garden that you grow stuff for the restaurant from?
I can speak to that.
No, we don't have a specific garden, but we built that garden inside the Juvenile Justice Center to service them. And we also are working on a couple greenhouse projects around the city to be able to, to your point, when they get out and they learn these skills, how can we continue them on? So, having spaces for them that they can occupy in, once they come out, if they want to continue to further those skills, then, we're in the process of, we had one built that we're looking to start programming in the spring, and it's looking to continue that stuff on. And maybe, like I said, it's ways, for them, we see it as a way to, grow things and then also understand the economic part of growing things, because I think that's the big part that's missing when they think about produce and things like that. They don't connect it with economics. And I think that's why it's like something that they possibly leave off in their mind, like, oh, well, this doesn't, it's not for me, because it's like, how am I gonna make money? But, understanding that part, and that's what, to Mike's point about the farmer's market, they get to understand like, oh, well, people buy this stuff and they use it. And it's like we're, generating revenue from it. So it's like just to kind of them to understand that the economic part and a lot of these things that they may not have been exposed to, but understand is different ways for you to, generate revenue.
Well, especially if you can take the long view of this, you're preparing some of these young folks to be able to go out and be difference makers in their own right and be, change makers and community, heroes, so to speak, if they can take the skills that they learned that you're sharing with them and put it into practice when they get out.
Yeah, and also that is a holding facility, and a lot of times too, these people that are there, they have to go off and continue their sentences elsewhere. So it's good to kind of plant that seed to be able to understand something. So as they go off on their individual journeys, that's something that they will always remember and kind of can come back to.
Well, I love the fact that the restaurant is just part of a much bigger picture, and a bigger vision that you have. I read about one program, I don't know if you still do it, called the Down North Treehouse. Do you still do that one?
Yeah, that was basically a longer form program that's going to take, a significant amount of capital to get off the ground. But we do have the building space. So we do have the space, which is about 2 blocks from the pizza shop. So that's, that is, something that's going to take some time. And as we continue to partner with people, and we made a lot of leeway thus far. So we're looking within the next 5 years to have that space actually up and running. But every other, initiative underneath the Down North Foundation, we have, rolled out and done, in different capacities.
We recently had on the show a guy who's from the East Coast, from Jersey, but he lives in Texas, and he started a program there. The doors haven't opened yet, but he's got a similar vision, but he's trying to reach kids who have not necessarily, gone to juvenile centers and things like that, but they're struggling. Kids who are struggling with nothing to do after school, so that they end up hanging out, drinking, and doing drugs. And he's trying to head them off from that by creating essentially a clubhouse gathering place. He calls it How You Doing, the How You Doing, clubhouse, so to speak, where the kids can come after school, hang out with other kids, and have some wholesome activities and maybe learn how to do gardening and some of the things that you've been teaching as well. It seems like there's just such a strong need for young people to have opportunities, mentoring, education, and just the chance to learn how to do it, and a safe space to do it. It sounds like a little bit of, is that what the treehouse you think will be able to provide?
Yeah, I think when I think about my experience, and I'm quite sure Mike can talk about it too, I think the lack of exposure was at the cornerstone of, all of this. It is I feel like every kid, what all kids do have is imagination. And they imagine big. Like, we all been around kids, and they could be as young as 2. Like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a firefighter. I want to be this and that. The problem is when you're in these neighborhoods, it's like the lack of exposure will have you thinking that that's such a stretch, right? That's not a real thing. Because you've never seen nobody. You've never seen a doctor, right? Other than you going into the doctor's office. You don't have any interaction with these people in these professions. So it becomes an afterthought. And what happens is they attach themselves to tangible things that are close by them, which are in the neighborhoods, which a lot of the times are nefarious things. And that's where the problem lies. Because when you get to talk to, and like Mike can speak on it, when you get to talk to some of these youth, right, they still have that imagination. And you talk to them, you're like, what do you like to do? And it's like, yeah, I like to do this and like this. But they still can't fathom that being them because they still haven't been exposed. So I think have an opportunity to expose them to things at a very young age and let them understand that it's real and give them a pathway to it. I think we can start to change that, because that's a big part of the foundation of the Down North Foundation, is to catch them before they get into it.
Yeah, that sounds like the best case scenario of all is, being proactive that way. So are you seeing, you've been doing this for a while now. Are you starting to see the results lay out in the neighborhood?
I think when you do the work, that's not the thought process, because I think, we may not, it's a possibility we can never, this foundation that we built will outlive us.
Yeah.
But we understand that we're putting the foundation in place. So that's the biggest thing that I think we need to focus on, because we're going to see on a micro level some things, but we're looking for long term. So we know it's going to take time and consistency, which is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
To really see some, because we're not just happy like, oh, well, 1 or 2 people. We want to really make a dent in this issue, right? So we know that's going to take time.
And so, yeah, and you do have to have patience and what's the resiliency, I guess, is the word that's coming to mind, is in order to make something like this happen. I think you had another program also called the Protect Your Crib. Is that
Yeah, that's an annual program, and that really focuses on combating gentrification in the neighborhood. Because, like, as I spoke, I said before earlier that Strawberry Mansion kind of sits in the center of Philadelphia, so it's very easily to navigate and easy to get to
yeah.
parts of the city. So it's been a target of gentrification. So one way that gentrification works is through delinquency of taxes and things on your house. So what we notice is that a lot of people just losing their houses to being delinquent on their taxes. So, a lot of the initiatives around the foundation are just birthed out of necessity when we assess the neighborhood. So it's like, all right, well, how can we help keep people in the neighborhood? Because that's the philosophy that we're about, keeping people in the neighborhood. So we, partnered up with organization got funding. It's an annual thing that we identify between 10 to 15 homeowners in the neighborhood, because other thing people don't know is that maybe a majority of these and the occupants in Strawberry Mansion, they actually own their houses.
Uh,
We identify them who are in danger of losing their houses due to delinquent property taxes or delinquent water bills and things like that. And it's nothing more that we have the money, we just pay it. We give them bring them in for an informative session and, put them on programs to help them not be in this situation again. And there's no catch. It's just simple as that.
it's really amazing. And so basically you're buying them the time that they need to be able to.
No, we're clearing their balances. Now it's at zero. So it's like, and moving forward, there's programs that, if you're a senior citizen, or the tax abatement programs, or, certain programs that will have your taxes be set, and then you can make sure that you fall behind again. So
That's awesome. Well, before we talk about some of the pizzas, I don't want to run out of time before we get to talk about some of the dynamic pizzas on the menu. But there's another sort of category in the book in which you talk about your match made in Philly collabs, your collaborations with some famous chefs and great local chefs, and not just Philly chefs. I think some of them are New York chefs, but people like Mark Vetri and Michael Salamano. These are James Beard award-winning chefs. Shinari Freeman. I'm sorry,
Mike Salvador.
Marcus Samuelson. You worked with him a little bit. So let's talk about some of the ways that you work with them and why they've clearly they like what you're doing, and they've lent their name to to the effort, because you got menu items that they helped to collaborate with you to create. Did you work directly with them, like Mike? When they were coming up with these ideas, did you guys seriously collaborate and brainstorm these concepts?
Yeah, so the majority of our collabs, we sat down and we had sessions of what we wanted. But for the most part, we offered up our dough, our famous dough, could stand alone with anybody's, and that my dough serve as their canvas, and that they basically paint their masterpiece, and that's how we pretty much did it.
So you bring your dough to their sort of topping concept idea.
Exactly.
So let me give some examples to the listeners. Like with Mark Vetri, who was an Iron Chef, a famous one of the most famous chefs in America and talented chefs. You got a beef shank ragu with smoked scamorza cheese and a horseradish sauce. With Michael Salamano, who also is now internationally known, a harissa chicken schnitzel pizza. You talk about fusion of different cultures. You got harissa from from like Morocco in the Middle East, and schnitzel from Germany. What are those? That they both sound pretty good to me, actually. And when I read about it, I wanted to try that harissa chicken schnitzel pizza. Is that popular?
We definitely ran it up when we had it. It was a match made in Philly, so it was a one night only type of thing.
I see. So these are almost like pop-up pizzas.
Yeah, it's not permanently on the menu, but I believe we sold out with his pop up.
I would think, because I mean, just the photo alone, is pretty exciting. It's crispy, this looks pretty cool. Marcus Samuelson did one with a Doro Watt pizza. What can you talk a little bit about what that is? What a Doro Watt pizza is?
What is the national dish of Ethiopia? So I guess it was a dear topping to him, to his heart, basically an ode to Ethiopia. So we were definitely happy to present that to the public.
And so do these concepts, these collabs, do they kind of rotate around and come back, or was it a one-off and if you missed it, you missed it?
It's a one-off, but for the most part, we started what would we call that with aunts and uncles? It's a second annual was this year. That pizza is the pizza that's probably we're gonna run back for years. We do it at their restaurant in Brooklyn.
Oh,
And
nice.
sort of like a family reunion day. Like everybody just comes out. We call it for the culture. A second year in a row, sold out. Big crowd on Nostrand Ave. And it was definitely dope.
You know, they're great ideas, and I hope you kind of have greatest hits days where you bring them back, or golden oldies or whatever, because some of these, if people miss them. But the good news is that the how to make these pizzas are all the recipes are there in the new book, and the book's called We the Pizza. I think what's the subtitle is what Slangin' Pies and Saving Lives. So the book tells a lot of the things that we've been just touching on here. The stories behind the story is there, as well as these great recipes. Can you talk about the North sauce? That sounds like it's one of your signature sauces.
North sauce was inspired by, like you said before, a arrabbiata sauce. I remember going to an Italian restaurant and having the spicy tomato sauce. And I basically turned it into, every time I made lasagna after that, I always did a spicy sauce because I was always leaning towards spice. And North sauce, I guess, is a culmination of that, as well as when you go into the a slice shop and you put everything, you walk over and you put your oregano on there, your garlic, your parm. I figured, why not just put it all into the sauce, so we don't have to have that little tray.
It's nice. So essentially, obviously a lot of these things are inspired by classic or traditional recipes, but then you give it your own spin.
Yeah, definitely.
So is that the sauce? Is that, would you say, the primary pizza sauce, or do you just use like classic tomato sauces too?
North sauce is our signature sauce. Like any bread pie that you come to down north forward, you're going to get North sauce on it. We also offer a sweet version for those who have aversion to spice, but that's our signature sauce. It's smoky, sweet, and a hint of spice, and it goes down right every time.
You were talking about your dough, your crust. Can you talk a little bit about the crust? Because obviously, a lot of people who tune in are like us; they're pizza geeks. They want to know the details. So can you, without giving away any family secrets, can you talk a little bit about what makes your crust and your dough so good?
I think it was a real humid summer day, and because of the humidity, we ended up doing a variation of the dough, because when it's humid, the dough is so moist it basically falls through your fingers.
Yeah.
We upped the hydration. We already had a high hydration, but we upped it to 85%, around 85, 87%. And it came out so perfectly resilient, like crispy on the outside, super fluffy on the middle. And that's been our dough ever since.
Do they have a long fermentation?
No, actually don't do a fermentation. I use instant yeast. No
Okay.
fermentation process, instant yeast. Dough gets made fresh every morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. My guys in here making this dough. Shout out to Mark. Like every day, 6 o'clock in the morning, if you drive by, you will see him in here making this dough.
And the dough that's made in the morning is used later in the day.
Yeah, it's used for that.
Interesting. But so the key to this one, it sounds like to me, is that the high hydration is kind of one of the secrets to the sauce here.
Yo, it's definitely everything. It stands up in a 650-degree oven, and it's like I told you, it's like a crispy crust on the outside. Like, and we're talking before the cheese even melts down and you get that nice cheese fence. It's just nice and crispy and fluffy on the head.
And they're beautiful. The photos capture it really well. Your photographer, Amurri Lauren, did a terrific job. I know that, and I know your fellow author David Joachim helped with the writing, and really you've put together, both of you, with just a beautiful book, and it captures, I would say, the spirit of down north pizza, because like I say, a lot of books tell a story, but your book really captures the story, I think, in a way that, as I'm looking at the book, I'm getting excited. I can't wait to come back up to Philly to see my family, and take a trip up to see you guys. So congratulations on that. You've nailed it. Let me maybe, just before we run out of time, and by the way, I want to encourage those who are listening to get the book, because we're talking about it, but until you see it, and you see the photos, you'll have a better idea of what the pizzas look like. They look like the best deep pan pizzas that you've ever seen. The concepts are exciting, and they stimulate your own imagination in much the same way I think that you guys are doing with the young people that you're working with. But let me just ask you this: now that you've had 4 or so years, under your belt. Things are happening. You've got things established. You've got so many different things going on in the neighborhood. Where do you see down north and the other work that you're doing, let's say 5 years from now? Where would you like it to be in 5 years? And what would be the vision of outcomes that you're looking for?
Expansion outside of Philly is, we don't have any interest in like having another like Philly location. I think this became like a destination spot. So, we're kind of keeping it as that, but definitely going on the road. We think every city needs, every state needs a down pizza for the mission, also for the pies, because that's, where we see this is like, not even just national, but international, like expanding outside and just, continuing to spread our message and spread, empower, individuals who come from the same walk of light as us to kind of like, see that it can be done. That's, that's very, very important for us.
I think that's that's a theme that we've talked about earlier in this conversation, is that until they see it, it's hard for people to really get their head around it. And so this becomes a model, of execution, of an idea to bring it into being. Do you find that but in order to pull that off, in order to have other, versions of Down North Pizza in other places, you got to have people like you two that care about it, that feel it and see it. Do you see that kind of a developing community of like-minded people to be able to pull this off in other locations?
Absolutely. A third of America has been formerly incarcerated. So it's no shortage of individuals who've been impacted by the carceral system. Like you said, of getting them acclimated and getting them, the understanding that, it can be done. So, people that have been affected by the carceral system, they, that connected with us, they get a feel and understand that, this is a real thing. They come around us and it's like, oh, these are like, these real people. It's not, we don't have, I tell people all the time, there is no gimmicks with what we do. We wanted it to be gimmicky because there isn't, that we have, this is real lives. And although we do have a great mission, but we also have a great product. So those two have
that's it.
together in order.
But you also you brought a lot of hard work to this. And as you said, when you jumped into it at the beginning, you didn't really have that much restaurant experience but you probably accrued an awful lot of knowledge, wisdom, and life lessons that you could share with other people who want to try to replicate what you're doing somewhere else. Do you foresee possibly creating gatherings where you kind of have like the Down North, conference, or, something to bring people in to do mentoring and do training?
And I think, the reason why we work so well together, because it's like, we don't have egos. And, I tell people, if you want to make it, you have to have levels of humility, because like I said, I had to be comfortable with not knowing my way around the kitchen or not understanding how kitchens work initially. Right. And I had to be willing to learn and work the line and work things like that. And like, cause I said, like, I literally built out the kitchen just based off of what I thought % would make, the kitchen run. It was nothing else. So it's like getting in there and then learning a lot from Mike, just how to operate, and it was some learning curves because, we talk about it some, a little bit in the book about, me just, kind of being a deer in headlights in the kitchen and not.
Yeah. There are some great stories in the book that you share. Yeah.
Not understanding kitchen culture and announcing and stuff. So it was like, it was a lot of learning, but without humility, how are you going to be able to learn and understand, right? Because if you think you know everything, then that's a problem, right? You become stagnant in life when you become unteachable and not be willing to learn. So I'm constantly learning, throughout this, but, I'm not driven by fear. And, at the end of the day, we have to possess the resilience necessary to, succeed in this world. And a lot of individuals who've been in those situations, who've been in prison, had the resiliency because they're still here. They're still, thriving in this world, aside for what, they had to go through.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank both of you guys. I know that you got a restaurant to operate. You got to get going. So I want to thank you for sharing your time with us, for doing this book. Congratulations. It's a huge achievement, not only to create the restaurant and all the other things that you've been doing around the restaurant, but now to have a book to tell the whole story. So I encourage everybody to, check it out. We the Pizza. What is it? Slangin' pies and saving lives. And Muhammad Abdul-Hadi. Am I saying your last name is Hadi?
Yeah.
Yes, Abdul-Hadi and Michael Carter thank you for doing this. Thank you for all that you've done and will do. And I look forward to seeing you in person and sharing some pizza with you when I get back up to Philly.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks for being with us on Pizza Quest. And thank all of you for tuning in to this episode. Join us again. We'll have more episodes every week. Thanks.
Next episode.
Yeah.